Hello, welcome back. I'm Kashi, and I've been recording some reactions to the anime Dr. Stone. When you'll be able to see that, I don't know. I can't make promises. There's a lot of editing that has to be done. I don't have any of the time to do it on my own. Perhaps I'll be making a video about the plan going forward in regards to those videos. But whenever they are published, it will be on the secondary reaction channel, probably linked in the description of this video. But as I was watching it, especially towards some of the earlier episodes, I was considering MBTI, the Myers-Briggs personality types of the main character Senku, and also is his best friend, who we followed a lot in the most early episodes, Taiju. So this is my best assessment, as not sure how well I can explain or justify my positions, but you can go ahead, whether you disagree or agree, provide your own arguments down in the comments below. At first I thought Senku was probably ENTP, maybe INTP. I think there's points to be made towards saying extrovert or introvert for him. He especially seemed to have a bit of ENTP sort of humor, some of the chaotic trolling, and his whole game perspective, the sort of the lens of a civilization game as he's restoring science to the world, seemed like a very any INTP ENTP sort of fitting idea. Though as it went on, I definitely saw ways that one could justify NTJ personality types. After all, he had some pretty clear plans for each major step of how everything hones in back to the ultimate goal that they're trying to achieve at any given point, rather than looking at how each individual achievement could expand into many other things, which did apply. The plans going forward mostly had to do with a major next goal and how they can bring everything in towards that, which seems like a more NI approach, as well as the more community group reliance, sort of the everyone working together seemed like a little bit more of a TE approach in a way. And so you can definitely see those arguments, and ultimately I'm not totally sure. To be fair, characters of the show aren't necessarily written with a personality type in mind, and could show some different sides. And people in real life will give impressions that will point to some different things that aren't what their main personality type is, what their functions are. Part of what still has me thinking the NTP type is actually sort of the when you see how the characters they were able to wake up because they're conscious, focused, keeping thinking while in the stone for those thousands of years. Senku counted the seconds. He knew exactly when it was, what day of what year, when he woke up, which is the most crazy impressive thing. And on its own, it at first doesn't seem like it could really roll out either NTP or NTJ necessarily. But here's sort of my thinking on it. I'm not sure NTJ with NITE would have necessarily done that. I think over all that time, NITE would probably have thought up not every possible scenario in like any sort of sense, but like over all that time would have been able to hone down a perfect, detailed plan of exactly what to do in each possible sense of what it was like upon waking up. I think NIT probably wouldn't have actually remembered or thought or kept up with the counting. I'm not even sure TE has that kind of patience. Well, with the NTP type, the thing is, alright, being stuck in stone like that, and I believe they weren't even able to see most of that. It was just in their head, focusing. And there's obviously not a lot of opportunity to any sort of interaction with the outside world, and I think it's very likely that what would have mostly come to the front during such time would have been specifically the introverted functions and not the extroverted functions, more or less. If you get what I'm going. So basically, INTJ, ENTJ would more likely have more NIFI going on while trapped like that, while NTP would have more TISI. And actually keeping track of every second that passes, being able to accurately keep track of seconds on a second by second clock does seem like a much more sensing use, which, when stuck, unable to any sort of interaction with the outside world, may have come to the front more in the introverted, forcefully introverted situation than even the higher positioned any of the functions. And so these are sort of my two sides to Senku, but I think it seems very, very clear that he's an intuitive of some kind and a thinker of some kind. And I would like to hear your thoughts down in the comments below, what you think regarding TETI on the J or P type spectrum, and also what you think as far as justifying introvert versus extrovert as far as his overall personality. Anyway, Taiju, my thinking on Taiju is probably ESFP, which is very different, very opposing to NT, but it also means a lot of complementary effects, right? They were very much very different people with very different skills, and that is kind of the point, is how they complemented each other in that way. And so it definitely makes sense that they have very opposing personalities. And considering function stacks, NTJ and SFP are probably closer than most would realize. This is like opposite in, like, either way, it's opposite some ways, similar others. Taiju very much seems a much more extroverted person, and SE seems very fitting for him. Though admittedly, he's certainly not one to take the first punch, but he is very much the active type you would expect from SE. Much less overthinking and looking forward, and more handling the moment, as far as I could tell. It definitely seemed like a much more feeling type than a thinking type. Not that he's dumb, and not that feelers are dumb, but he seemed much more touched by the emotional side. He didn't seem especially interested in learning all the science stuff himself than just being wowed when Senku did it, you know? And looking at him when he was stuck inside the stone, the introvert function of ESFP would be SI and NI. And when he was stuck in the stone, it was very different from Senku. See, his whole thing being stuck for 3,700 years, I think was the number. And the reason he was staying this awake, focused mind for all the time was because he was pretty obsessively focused on this. He decided he was going to confess his feelings, and he was still intent on that. It was very, very FI. A little bit, I think also maybe stubbornness may have come from the FI too, in that regard. He's pretty young. It's not like he knew Yuzuriha that extremely well. But while I can say it's weird, it doesn't mean I can't definitely relate as FI Dom. And sort of the way he kept himself awake entirely about the specific. Yeah, when I get out, I'm gonna finish what I was in the middle of. I'm gonna confess feelings. That was his whole thing. Stuck in the stone. That very emotional, and also I guess it also seems kind of NI with the very narrowed plan, right? Like he paid like no attention to the right now when he was actually in the stone necessarily, but he didn't have the. But I was thinking, the introvert functions would come out a lot more than the extrovert when forced into such a state. And it was all this and the whole thing was this emotional holding on to this narrow plan of get out, confess feelings, and I think that among his overall kind of brash, physical, in the moment, in a certain sense, maybe a little brutish personality. I think I'm fairly certain on the idea that he's probably ESFP, and so that's sort of my assessment. Taiju, ESFP, Senku, at least NT, and could be introvert extrovert, could be JP, but for the sake of argument, I guess I'll say my official stance for now is ENTP, I suppose. Very opposing functions and everything with Taiju, which would make extra complementary characters. But I'm curious to know what you think. So go ahead and comment down in the comments down below and tell me what you think. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, would like to see more related or mostly unrelated content, please subscribe, hit the like, all that. I'm Kashi, you're awesome, and I hope to see you again in the next one.